Welcome to Sports Talk Line, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. And welcome to Battle for the Big East. Today, we're going to focus on Xavier Basketball, where we got Captain Xavier himself, Jason Meyers, on. Jason, how you doing?
Doing well, man. Appreciate you having me on.
All right. So first off, Xavier, they just had a very convincing win today, to say the least. Looking at it, Xavier was picked 7th out of 11 teams in the Big East Coaches Poll. Do you think that was a snub for Xavier?
Honestly, no. I don't think that was unfair. I mean, to be honest with you, we've underachieved the last couple of years, and I think we got to prove it. And we're an unproven group. We got 7 new players and a lot of dudes stepping into new roles. So no. And I look at the teams in front of us. Do I like our team? Absolutely. But I can't say we're better today than Seton Hall. I can't say we're better today than Providence. They have more proven pieces, so I don't have an issue with that at all. And we all know that 3 through 8 is going to be a gauntlet anyway, 1 or 2 games apart. So no issue with that.
Mm-hmm. I hear you on that, and I think one of the things Xavier has, which is always a key, they have a closer, and I think Paul Scruggs will be the closer for Xavier. What do you think about him going into this year?
We love Paul, man. It's always nice to have a guy, and I think it's important in basketball to know your role. And I think this year it's no question. Paul Scruggs is your guy, your go-to. Whereas last year it's like we had Najee, we had Paul, we had Q, we had Tyreek, and no one really wanted to give that up, and give up that closer. And it ended up being Najee. But I think we all know going into this year it's Paul's team, and we love Paul Scruggs, great utility guy, and he just does a little bit of everything.
Okay, great. Now, we kind of mentioned Paul Scruggs. He's an established star. He was second team all Big East. But I think 2 players, one that went off today and one who I think a lot of people, both players went off today, to say the least. But I wrote this last night before the game started. I just wanted to...
Right. Fair enough. Before we scored 100 points, yeah.
But the 2 players who I think are key factors are guard Kyky, Tandy, and forward Zach Freemantle. I think those are 2 players that, depending on how they develop, will impact it. So what do you got to say about Kyky, Tandy, and Zach Freemantle?
Oh, absolutely. And they've been, in my mind, like you said, they were the 2 guys that Travis Steele's been saying it all offseason. These 2 need to step into that role. We're counting on them. We need them to be game ready. But like you said, I mean, they're huge. They're huge pieces because Paul Scruggs, as great as he is, he's not like a born shooter, like a born scorer. He's a tough guy. He's kind of like a football player. But I think Tandy's the best scorer on this roster. Guy that can absolutely light it up. He's unafraid. He's a guy we haven't really had in the program the last few years that can absolutely just put the ball in the bucket. Because if you've watched Xavier, it's been rough and tumble. Najee Marshall, Tyreek Jones, and kind of playing with the ball. You're playing with a lid on the basket at times. So Kyky's huge. And then with Freemantle, honestly, word out of practice and out of Centasi, he's the best player on the roster. He's had that big of a jump, and that's with Scruggs on the roster. So he does a little bit of everything. He's that big man that you love to have in 2020. Can step out and shoot. He did it today, made a couple threes. Does a little bit of everything. They love Zach Freemantle. Absolutely love Zach Freemantle.
Yeah, I would say one thing is when you look at the structure of Xavier's roster and the structure of some of the teams ahead of him, I think even though Xavier's ranked number 7th, I think, they match up well with Marquette. They match up well against Creighton, and they match up well against Butler. So I would say they match up well on paper against Villanova, but you got to put them in a special class.
Right.
Butler will, Villanova will just, pump fake, dribble drive you 37 times and get a backdoor layup. And guys you never heard of that were on like the JV team of Bergen Catholic are hitting walk-off threes with Villanova because Jay Wright has a magic touch. But that's one of the things. They do match up well against some of the teams they need to jump in the Big East, according to that. But, also, Travis Steele, he went to the transfer market. You got Adam Kunkle at guard, and one player who intrigues me is Bryan Griffin, the transfer from Division II Mercy College out of Dobbs Ferry, New York, who pretty much led Division II in rebounding with about 15 boards a game. He's about 6'8", 235. So he's going to be a force. But how do you see those 2 players impacting Xavier this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been interesting with the transfers and with the waivers, like in 2020 with NCAA, it's been wild. We had Ben Stanley, who we were counting on, whose waiver actually got denied. They were counting on him being a huge piece out of Hampton. Scored 22 points a game last year. So without him,
Butler also had a player denied a transfer. So
I don't get it. That's a whole other ballgame. NCAA, I don't know what they're doing. But with Kunkle, he was planning on coming in and just being a redshirt this year, getting stronger and developing his game until we thought, hey, this could be a free year. So they applied for a waiver about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they actually haven't heard back. They're expecting to get him at some point, but for right now, we're moving on without him. But he looks really, really good. In scrimmages, he hit 6 threes a game, I think, in the first scrimmage. So, I mean, he looks really good, but right now we got to play without him. You want the numbers, though. And then with Griffin, I didn't know what to think about him. You know how the grad transfer market can work. It just moves so quick. I mean, in regular recruiting, it's like, I know the kid's name because we've been recruiting for 6 months. But with Griffin, it was like, we talked about him, and then he committed in 2 days. So it was just very quick, but he's exactly what Xavier needs. I mean, you're missing Tyreek Jones. He was the 3rd best rebounder in college basketball. Griffin absolutely eats the glass. And that's one thing that Freemantle needs to work on if he has anything. I mean, he's a great player, but that's one thing he needs to work on. He's a sophomore. But Griffin absolutely comes in. He's a monster. He had a great game today. I mean, he impressed me a lot. First time seeing him on film.
Yeah, I think, when you look at Fremantle's and Griffin's skill set, they complement each other. Freemantle is the guy who's more of a finesse. Griffin just seems like the bruiser. And I totally agree with the grad transfer market. You never know,
right?
Like, oh, this guy's transferring and he committed. It's like, where did that come from?
Yeah, exactly. Like you blink your eye and it's like, we have 3 new players. I'm like, okay.
All right. Hopefully. And the thing is too, the one thing with transfers is you at least got a reference point to be like, all right, where did they play? How did they do?
Sure.
Kind of, of course, if you take the level, granted, I don't think Griffin will average 15 rebounds a game, but he definitely be up there. But also too, Travis Steele, he got the transfers, and he also got some freshmen coming in. And I really think when you talk about Xavier, they always have the big, strong guards, whether it's Trayvon Blewett, Summers, all of those players. And I think, CJ Wilcher and Colby Jones, I think, fit into that 6'4", 195, especially with Wilcher because he can, light it up from downtown. So how do you think those players, once they get out of quarantine, hopefully, how they'll impact this season?
Yeah, I can tell you they don't shut up about this freshman class. I think that the coaching staff wants to adopt Colby Jones, as their son because they love him that much. They love Colby Jones. He can do a little bit of everything. They say he's all of 6'5", 6'6". He's gotten a lot stronger. He came in as like a defensive specialist and a guy that would get to the bucket, was a good playmaker from the wing spot, a guy that you can kind of play through. But apparently he didn't shoot at all at AAU, but they love the way he's shooting the ball. I mean, he's not CJ Wilcher, but they are impressed by the way he's shooting the ball. And he's probably had the biggest ascension of anyone on the roster. He was like a bottom of the top 100 kind of kid, maybe like 110. But they're kind of comparing him to Edmund Sumner, who like completely outplayed his ranking. Edmund Sumner was about in the same range, and then was an NBA player in 2 years. They love Colby Jones on the wing. He's projected to start from what we're hearing. He would have started today from what we're hearing. CJ Wilcher just has like the old man's game that you just love. The guy in the Y that's going to be giving out buckets until he's 80 years old. He's very mature for a freshman. And he looks bigger than I saw him in high school. He looks like he's gotten in much better shape. But he just plays under control, kind of like Miles Davis, who we had a few years back.
Okay.
Good vision, plays in control. He doesn't play like an 18, 19-year-old. He knows what he does. He knows what he does very well. He's got a very quick release. And obviously shooting's been our Achilles heel. So very excited about what CJ can bring to the group for sure.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because Xavier is one of those programs when we look at the Big East where they really don't fall off that much, where it's like They always have enough pieces coming back. They don't get like the most highly touted freshmen, but they get enough pieces to keep them relevant going forward, which I think is essential nowadays with everything going on. But here's, one thing when we talk about Xavier basketball, which, when you look at the national basketball rivalries, a lot of people will think of Duke versus North Carolina at number one. And then there's maybe Kentucky versus Louisville and then some other rivalries. But the more I looked into it recently, I started to find out about this Xavier versus Cincinnati rivalry. Like, I'm from New York. I'm a St. Louis fan, unfortunately. And like, I've heard of some rivalries, Cincinnati used to be in the Big East. They left, right? Xavier came back in. But how can you describe the Xavier versus Cincinnati rivalry?
Yeah, it's crazy. And obviously I've never been in person to like Duke, UNC or any of those, but Xavier Cincinnati is starting to get a lot more national relevance. You start to see it now in like the top 3, I feel like, with most rankings that are put out for rivalries. But I mean, before every single game, whoever's hosting it, you have hundreds of students camping outside. Like when you walk up to the arena, if you walked up to the arena at 7 a.m, 100 tents sitting outside waiting to get in for the game. And it's one of those rivalries that, I mean, this is a city that has its professional sports have been terrible. I mean, I'm 28 years old and I've seen 0 Reds playoff series victories and 0 Bengals playoff wins. I mean, so it's a college basketball town, I believe. I mean, it'll always be a baseball town because of the Reds, but we love college hoops, and they've been very successful, both programs in the last 20 years. But it's just insane. It's a 365-day rivalry. I mean, it'll be like the middle of June, and someone will say something that sparks something, whatever the case may be, and it's just a Twitter battle in June, in like the middle of the off season. It's absolutely insane. A huge disdain for each other. Just a lot of opposites from 3 miles apart. It's crazy. Yeah.
And I really think that the people who you can credit this is Chris Mack and Mitch Cronin. Those players, those coaches do not like each other. And there's a part of me that's like wondering like what needs to happen for them to like one takes over Duke, one takes over North Carolina, one takes over.
I know.
That would just be like, they're going to have to be like, or like one takes over Michigan, the other one takes over Michigan State, where you're just going to have to
love it.
Restraining each other, because those guys, they're not the biggest guys, but they're feisty, and man, they do not like each other. And I really think that's something that really elevated the Xavier versus Cincinnati rivalry, because both of them,
right?
But oh boy, we'll see how things
we had that brawl in 2011 that was the talk of the entire sports world. I mean, it was on First Take, the first thing they talked about, bench clearing brawl. It's been insane. I mean, even in the 90s with Bob Huggins, didn't shake our coach's hand. I mean, there's so many stories with that rivalry. It's absolutely bonkers. I've seen fights in Cintas. I saw a guy jump down 3 rows to fight a guy. It's crazy. That is a juiced rivalry.
Yeah, I think to say the least, that's one where, we'll see once we get fans allowed back in whether that happens, but it's something definitely to look forward to. But Jason, tell everyone where we can find you on Twitter.
Yeah, I appreciate that. At CapX15, you can find everything we do. I'm on a little podcast with my friend Andy. It's called the Roll Blob Podcast by the Broken Anchor. They took us on and been doing great things for us. But CapX is where you can find me, and I'll be doing all the stuff. And I just like to have fun and talk junk to me. I'm here for it. Let's talk some snack in a friendly variety.
Yeah, that's pointed out to all this, the University of Cincinnati Bearcats. But if you haven't already, click that like and subscribe button for Sports Talk Line, where we talk sports 24/7, 365 on YouTube. My name's Tom McAlister. You can find me on Twitter at defense_com, at DFENDS_com. Thanks for being with us today for this week's episode of Battle for the Big East. And remember, listen like you play with intensity. All right, thanks for coming on, man.
Love it.
I felt like last night was like Christmas Eve, but you're wondering if Santa's going to get COVID or not.
Right. Is he actually coming? I know. I didn't believe it until it was on.
And the thing is, too, I actually had John Fanta on a few weeks ago.
He's the best.
And it was like, I was just talking with him, and it's like, baseball, I felt like was hit pretty hard, but they at least got a champion.
Right.
Basketball didn't get a champion across the board, which was a little, part of me was like, can we have like the NCAA tournament in June or something?
Something.
Let's
probably tougher to do with amateurs though.
Yeah, it's
but it's just like, to me, it's hands down my favorite event in sports. So
yeah.
And I actually just got out of the Navy at that time, like after 5 years.
Okay.
So I flew off the boat to a world in COVID, like on like March 13th. I was so excited for March Madness and didn't know what was going on, and the world was in shambles. I was like, oh my goodness, no tournament? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
I was kind of like, you're kidding me, right?
But I mean, it might have been I don't think we were going to make it. So if there was 1 year to do it, I guess pick that year.
Yeah. I was like a St. John's fan, and people were like, they beat Creighton pretty good. They had a win against Marquette. They had a halftime lead against Creighton. They're like, nope.
Yeah.
Cut the game.
That was crazy. Yeah. I love that picture of the Johnny sitting in the stands.
Thunderbird, where it's like,
yes, that's one of my favorite pictures ever. Yeah. Just describes it perfectly.
Yeah, it's like they weren't like, it's not rescheduled. They're like, nope, we're shutting down.
That was insane, man.
Yeah,
that was crazy. Halfway through, but I'm excited to see what St. John's does this year. I think they're interesting. I think that people are sleeping on them.
Yeah, they were picked 9th, but it's also like whenever they're picked to finish above 9th, they don't do it. But I mean, I like Anderson as a coach.
Yeah. He's a huge upgrade, I think.
Yeah. Mullen, I felt like this. Over the last 3 coaches, Steve Lavin got close. But like he went through the same thing that's always happened is like you only make one NCAA tournament and then you're going to go into complete rebuild.
Right.
You know, they brought in Mullen, which was like, okay, I thought it was good. His team got shellacked, but they played hard, but there's a lot of issues. And you can kind of tell it's like how the team formed out. Like you had Marcus Levette, who had a day-to-day knee injury that lasted the whole year. And it was just like certain things I felt like Mullen's last year, something was wrong.
It just seemed off. I mean, he was in Cintas and like, he didn't even coach. Like I had a seat, like I randomly got really, really good seats from like a doctor friend, and I was on the third row right behind the bench. And he was just like tying his shoes during timeouts, and like our student section made him like a balloon animal, and he like put it in his pocket. I'm like, what is he doing?
Yeah,
like, he held it for the whole half, like in his hand. I was like, this is crazy.
The thing is too, if you ever hear him talk in an interview about basketball, you're like, okay, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But I think the coaching part, it was like, you know, because it's also too, it's a lot of work, and there was only one guy.
Right.
There's only one coach who was really recruiting, and he left, and then, you know, but no, I would say, you know, the thing, St. John's actually got the Providence president to be president of their university.
Okay.
So they got Mike Anderson now. They got Mike Craig, who used to be an associate AD at Duke for like 20 plus years. And now they got so it seems like now that they actually got a strong leadership.
That's huge.
Across the board. And I really think if Mike Anderson does eventually retire, I think TJ Cleveland will replace him. Even though this is a long way down the line. But yeah, it's, you know what, Anderson, he developed his players, which St. John's fans haven't seen in years.
Right. He seems like a real coach. Mullen didn't seem like he was interested in coaching at all.
Yeah. I think when you really look at it, you know, like Norm Roberts was put in a difficult situation.
Sure.
You know, he never did it. Lavin, he overachieved his first year. I really think if Lavin didn't get sick, he probably would still be there, because Lavin was close. Mullen was just like, Lavin would barely miss by this much. Mullen was like, what the? Yeah, there was a lot of.
He was like a high ceiling, low floor guy. Like I was like, he could get some big talent in there, but he just didn't. I don't think he was interested in like all the work that comes with being a college coach. It's not the NBA.
Yeah, I think that was it. But you know, I think his son passed away and stuff like that.
Yeah, who's to say?
It was difficult, and also too, it's not like when Mullen went to St. John's, Lou Carnesecca would just travel New York City to recruit. It's not like that. Everyone's leaving now. You know.
Yeah, I know.
No one wants to represent their city.
It's not what it used to be, I feel like.
Yeah. No, but hey, man, thanks for coming on, man. We'll definitely try to do that. If you want me on your podcast, let me know. I could.
Yeah, dude, I'd love. Yeah, we'll do a home and home.
Yeah, you know, something like that. But we'll try to get you back on. We'll probably post this by Friday, as my engineer literally called me. He was like, hey, I'm ready now. I'm like, we just started 3 minutes ago.
That's awful.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm like, and the thing is, too, I had two guests lined up. I had Marcus Hatton lined up, who played for St. John's like 20 years ago. But he was like calling me from his phone, and I'm just like, I'm not going to. This is going on YouTube. I don't want anything to happen while we're on the phone, stuff like that. So I'll reschedule with him. But no, it's fun, though, to say the least, though. But yeah, we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. And when do you play Xavier? When do you play Cincinnati anyway?
It's coming up soon. It is the it's the 6th.
December
6th. Yep. Which is weird. It's our 5th game. It's their 2nd game, so it's gonna be interesting. No fans at their arena, so we'll see. Don't worry, you guys will line up outside. But I know one interstate rivalry, which is like they're kind of going back and forth with, is Rutgers for Seton Hall. Oh, I know, they hate each other. Rutgers is a legit top 20 team, man. They're good this year. I know. They're good, and it's like, you know, they're looking at all this stuff, and it's like, you know, you don't want to play us. No, we're, and it's just like, and the thing is too, Rutgers cracked Seton Hall last year. It was like 18-0. It was like they got ran out of the building. Ugly. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. I can't wait. I'm just so excited. Big Ten is loaded too. You know, when you look at super deep. When you look at them, Iowa has a Garza, Illinois is loaded, Rutgers is a top 20 team, Michigan State's Michigan State. A lot of teams are up that had been down for a little while. Like, I'm excited to see what Illinois can do and those kind of schools. It'll be fun. Yeah. Kofi Cockburn's going to be a monster. He's a beast. Iota Sunmu is a beast. They got some dudes. He's one of the guys that will probably benefit so much from coming back another year. You know. Totally agree. You know.
But hey, we'll definitely keep in touch. We can go back and forth with this and then take it from there. All right.
Yeah, I love it, man. I appreciate you having me on. Thanks for thinking of me, and have a great night. Have a safe holiday.
All right. You too. Take care. Bye.
See you, brother. Bye.